The new display is now over 30% larger and is seamlessly integrated into the product. The interface has been redesigned for our new display, providing more information with richer detail.
It's amazing to think that the same watch you wear every day to make phone calls and respond to messages, even run a marathon, can now take an ECG.
This is iPhone XS and XS Max. They are packed with so many new advancements. Better Super Retina displays, 5.8-inch, and the new 6.5-inch OLED displays.
The new iPhone XS, the most advanced smartphone in the world, with a Super Retina display, advanced Face ID, a breakthrough dual camera system, and the smartest, most powerful chip ever in a smartphone. The iPhone XS Max, the biggest screen ever in an iPhone, the biggest battery ever in an iPhone, and of course, the biggest experience ever in an iPhone. And the iPhone XR with a new Liquid Retina display.
It's the best single camera system we've ever made with our new generation 12-megapixel sensor. It has the same true-depth camera system as iPhone XS and XS Max with faster Face ID. iPhone 7 starts now at just $449, and there are models of iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. iPhone 8 at $599, and models of 8 and 8 Plus. The brand new iPhone XR starting at $749, XS at $999, and XS Max at $1099. They're all running iOS 12, and we can all upgrade to it September 17th.
Hey folks, Matt McQueenie of the Mix Minus Podcast. It is Thursday, September 20th. The Jets are playing the Browns right now. It's only the first quarter. I believe only one drive for each team, and the drive has gone nowhere. But we heard the beginning of this podcast, and it was from USA Today doing a synthesis of the Apple event that happened last week, where they announced several new products, as they often do in early September, right around that midpoint of the month. That gives us a lot of things that whet our appetite and get us excited about what could be in technology and what we might be looking for there. And there was a lot of announcements. Were they announcements that changed the world? No. Were they iterative? Yes. Were they revolutionary? No. Were they evolutionary? Possibly. Apple needs a reason to sell you something every year, and they didn't even bring out iPads or Apple TVs or AirPods, but it's always a time where they have to sell their stock base product, the iPhone, and they brought out the new Apple Watch as well. But I think the reason they come out with this is the Apple iPhone itself is something that many people who really love the technology will buy each year. An iPad is a little more difficult to buy each year. An Apple Watch doesn't make as much sense. For some strange reason, and I don't know if it's because I'm crazy and addicted to technology, though not as much as I used to be, but for some strange reason, it feels okay to get a phone each year. Is it wasteful? Probably. Is it being recycled the right way? I'm told it is, but who knows? But I'm part of one of those programs with Verizon, and AT&T has these, and many of the other products or other carriers have these, where you basically can get the new phone each year, that you pay off the majority of the phone that you need to pay off, and then you're able to kind of upgrade to the next phone quickly. I don't know how conservative that is as a principle, but I like doing it. I look at my phone a lot. I spend a lot of time with my phone. It is the really central focus of much of my entertainment consumption and my reading and really interacting with the world. So when I think of a phone, I think a year is okay. And I'm looking to jump into the next one the year later, because when you really look at the economics of it all, the price to keep it for a whole nother year and to quote unquote pay it off is really not that big a deal. And by the point where you get to 2 years with a phone, which is generally the time where you would have paid it off, and your price could come down because pretty much the phones are like $1,000 now, right? I mean, these iPhone 10s and now the iPhone 10s's are pretty much breaking the bank at that $1,000 range. And if you were to buy that straight out, you would be kind of crazy. But because we are able to amortize them into our cell phone bills over 2 years, the price doesn't end up being as crazy. And on top of it, there are deals and discounts that happen with the purchase of these phones where you get, say, $25 off a line. So it ends up basically netting out to the fact that for each phone you have, you're paying about $100 a month or more. I guess with my wife and I, we have 2 phones on the plan, and then she also has a teacher discount for being a teacher from the NJEA, I believe, and that gives us about 15% off. So it ends up netting out at just north of $200 a month. It's a lot of money, but you spend a lot of time with your phone. And we have a plan that gets us about 16 megs per month, which we never have a problem with. We never run up against that. And any unused rolls over to the next month. So you're in pretty good shape with that. Is it a bit more than we want to spend? We want to be south of 200, but if you're north of 200 by a little bit, it is what it is. She just upgraded in the last, I lose track of time, maybe 3 months, 6 months, to the iPhone 10, which I have had since last year. And so that brought our price up a little bit. But it is crazy that when you add on these brand new phones continually, your price never changes that much. It's kind of weird like that. It's like you're in a casino where they're just constantly enticing you to do more and you're not understanding where your money's going. And then when you look at your account, you're not losing a ton. So it's a strange little situation with that. But here we are at the cusp of another year, and I am not as into having to get the next piece of tech as I used to be. There are so many technologies we need. Now that I'm a cord cutter, my cable box is solely streaming services. So Roku boxes I have an Apple TV box, I have Chromecasts, you have all this. There's a million things you could be upgrading at all times, and I don't want to be doing that. And then I look at my phone, and I got the iPhone 10 last year, as I said, which was really the big revolutionary phone of the past maybe 3 or 4 years. I mean, that's a lot of years in technology terms, but the phone got rid of the bezels. It got rid of the home button. It's pretty much all screen, and it has a little notch at the top that sticks out. It's a beautiful phone. The thing I love about it, it is the screen size of the Plus phones. So if you get an 8 Plus or a 7 Plus, if you had those, or a 6 Plus, I think 6 was the first time where they brought Plus into the mix, where they created the phablet, where they had the big screen phone. Apple had never done that. They were always pretty much topping out at about a 4-inch screen. And then these phones were north of 5 inches, maybe 5.8 inches. But a lot of it was not screen. There was bevel, as they call it, which is sort of the top of the phone, which goes across in a line, and then the bottom of the phone, which has the home button and then the space across that covers that. So the screen itself was smaller. The iPhone 10, which you notice there is no 9, it's not like the 13th floor on a building. You ever notice there's not any 13 floors? Isn't it weird how kind of superstitious people are? That buildings aren't built with a 13th floor because we're that superstitious. It's kind of weird. But Apple went to the 8 and then they got the 10. The reason there's not a 9 is because it happened to be the 10th anniversary of the original iPhone. So they jumped right to 10. I wonder if they'll ever do something with 9. They're also in Roman numerals now. So a lot of people think it's the iPhone X. But that was the one that came out, and that was the one that really changed everything. The price went really up there. Again, it's $1,000 phone at its base, and then when you add storage to it, it gets even pricier. I'd say that with each iteration that you move up in storage, with each level you move up in storage, you move about $100 up. So you're getting up to probably $1,200 at some points if you have the most storage phone. And that's an expensive phone. But again, when you amortize it over 2 years in your cell phone bill, it's not quite as bad as it seems. And it is a beautiful device. I love it so much. It's the form factor of the regular sized 7, 8 phone, and it's the screen of the Plus. It's perfect. You can hold it in one hand. You can pretty much reach everything. It's small enough, especially if you have come from the plus size phones. It is a tremendous device. And so Apple, they got to come out with new phones every year. It's just, you got to feed the beast. That's what you have to do. You have to continue to move product at the levels you have moved it. You are not the biggest company in the world, pretty much vying with Exxon. I always say it's like oil level big. You're not vying with Exxon because you're making products that people hold for several years. There was a joke I would hear when I had to get a new water heater, for instance, in my basement. My water heater blew on Thanksgiving of a couple years ago, and it was a real traumatic event when you're a homeowner because you think everything's great, everything's hunky-dory, everything's gravy, and then all of a sudden something like a water heater goes or leaks happen, things like weird happens. It's like your home often feels like an aircraft carrier, and little weird things can happen across the bow, or the whatever part of the ship is going a little crazy. And with the water heater, I looked it up I looked it up to kind of see if there was a warranty on it. And when I looked it up, I was like, holy crap, there's 6 days left on the warranty. How weird is that? How crazy is that? And it was legit. I checked it up. I called a plumber to put it in, and he goes, yep, you're covered 6 more days. And it wasn't us who bought it. It was the previous owners, but that thing was covered. And it came in. That thing only lasted 6 years. It's a 6-year warranty. And the plumber was telling me that there was a company who made the strongest, most robust water heaters you've ever seen. I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but these water heaters would last 50 years. And you know what the problem with that is? Is that you go out of business if you can't sell new product. So you're making something that's impregnable, that lasts 15 years, and then all of a sudden you got nothing else to sell because it's such a well put together product. So isn't it funny how all of a sudden these things last 6 years? They last basically the warranty time. So they're kind of creating a forced obsolescence, as they say in the Apple world. With Apple, a lot of times you need new phones because the new operating systems that are created are too much for the older phones and the older technology on the phones. And when we're saying older, we're talking like 2 years. Sometimes the speed can come down and it can hurt. It can get sluggish. It can get lethargic. And all of a sudden you need a new phone to get the very best of that new operating system. Now, the funny thing is with the newest operating system, iOS 12, it's actually been created to be efficient on these older devices. So I have an iPad mini 4, I think, which is the last iPad mini that was ever made, which is like 4 years old now. And it had gotten sluggish in iOS 11. iOS 12 comes on. It's been made more efficient. It's funny how Apple can do that. They know what they're doing. And now all of a sudden, it's got new life. It's a really good device again. It's quicker. I was never asking it to do too much. My iPad mini is used for bedtime, and I like to read. I like to watch stuff. It's lighter. It's smaller. So it's a really good bed device. It really is. And I also like to read, even though I have a Kindle, I like to read books on it if I'm going to read. I don't like reading books on the bigger iPad, the nearly 10-inch screen iPad. It just feels too big. It feels like you're holding an absurd Torah-like book. It doesn't feel right. So there is a niche for that iPad mini that makes sense. But Apple needs to create these things. They need to keep going. They need to keep feeding the beast. And so here we are, another year, another release, and they are on the S cycle. After the number cycle, Apple will come out with an S cycle. Yeah, I was going to say X because you get all screwed up with this nomenclature that Apple uses. But so when they came out with the 7, then the next step is the 7S, and then the next year they're at 8, right? So it kind of works like that as it went through all the numbers. So now we're at the S cycle. And a lot of the S cycle is using the form factor often of the previous, the main number cycle, and then adding guts that bring it up another level. But what they've really brought out here, which I kept waiting to happen, and this here is the genius of Apple. So I have an iPhone 10. I have no reason to upgrade this phone. It is a great phone. It serves every need I have. It does have a little nick on the screen, which drives me nuts in an OCD way. So I almost want to upgrade to get rid of that nick, even though I will get a new nick 3 weeks later. And I don't get any other nicks in the phone, but I will get like one nick to remind me that I can't have everything I want. I can't have my cake and eat it too. But that's for my head, not yours. And so I don't have a need to jump to the same exact form factor, the iPhone XS. I have no need, or as it's spelled, XS. But you know what Apple went and did? Because they gotta get you to buy another one. They came out with an iPhone XS Max. How about all that? It sounds like Mad Max Fury Road or something. It's a crazy amount of words you got to say here. And you'll never have to say it again once you have it, because it's a weird amount of words. Apple has a funny situation when they come out with so many new things to accommodate for that. It gets out of control. But the iPhone XS Max has everything great about the iPhone X. And they also have a XS, not a XS Max, which is pretty much the 10 I have, but just upgrades some things here or there, some camera stuff, some guts, some bionic chips, whatever it is. I don't get into that stuff. I just can feel it. But I would never jump up to that one. And so what Apple's doing is they understand that everyone who has the 10 is not necessarily going to jump up to the XS. It's not enough of a jump. So what they do is they go, hey, we're going to take the screen even bigger. So you remember how we said, and remember how I said earlier on, that the 10 is the form factor of the regular phone, but a bigger screen than the Plus, which is shocking. It's like, it throws you off. It doesn't make sense. It's like is it called a trompe l'oeil or whatever? Like the thing that messes with your eyes. Those little games you play when you go to take psychology classes. I don't even know if I had my French right there. But so what they're doing is they're saying, okay, let's up it. And I knew this was coming, and I knew it was going to be the thing that hooks me, and I'm sure I'm going to go to this. They take an iPhone XS Max. So it uses all the form factor you see on the 10 and then goes, you know what? We're going to up the ante. We're going to put this on a Plus body. So we're going to put this on a body, and we're going to get every inch of that screen. So this sucker ends up being, I think I read 6.5 inches. It's close to a tablet. When you think of the Mini, I think it's 7.9 inches. I believe that's the screen. I don't know if that's the width of the entire device with the bezels, but it's got a screen that's like 7.9 inches. So you're getting close. When you got this thing that's all screen, you're going to feel like you have a true tablet or a phablet, as you say. So I'm sitting here going, I have no need to upgrade. I'm fine. I'm doing well. Maybe I'll get the watch. Maybe I'll do this or that. I always try to convince myself out of things, and then within a day, I'm convincing myself into why I need the newest thing. And so I'm going to probably end up getting the iPhone XS Max because I want to take this beautiful device that's been created, and it's perfect. It's great. The size is perfect. It fits in pockets. It's not unwieldy. You can put it, if you're going for a run, you can put it in one of those armbands, and it doesn't feel ridiculous. It doesn't feel like you're running. When I was in Austin this past weekend, there was a woman running, and she had one of these like Samsung Notes, and it looked like she was running with an entire computer on her bicep. And you're sitting there going, does that make sense? I don't know if it does. I don't think it does. But I think with this, because I want to upgrade a lot, because you only live once, because you don't want to miss out, I'm going to probably upgrade. So Apple literally came out with the Max because there's no other reason for people who have the 10 to jump up. And I'll tell you, it's really kind of cool. So in general, if we go back over this stuff, so they came out with a XS, they came out with a XS Max, and then they came out with a XR. Why R? Who knows? Probably because it's just before S, and it's sort of I don't want to call it cheap, but it's more the frugal updated phone. And the interesting thing with the XR, it's not going to be available for pre-order till October 19th, but it has a different screen. So on the XS, it's OLED. I don't know what a lot of this means, but I sort of do. When you're almost talking about TVs at this point. So it's an OLED screen. With the XR, it's an LED screen. The interesting thing with the XR is it seems to have everything that the XS has, but it's a 6.1 inch screen, which is interesting. So it almost ends up being, at least I think, a screen that's slightly bigger than the XS, but not as big as the XS Max. So there might be a potential for it. It also has those, it has like the backs. It doesn't have like the same, it doesn't have the same body make as the more upscale phone. So I don't know if it's aluminum versus stainless steel, whatever it is, it's a little lesser than, and it has kind of the plastic back, I think, with the colors. So it has a lot of colors, but, the XS, water resistant, has a 5.8 inch OLED screen, as I said, same dimensions as last year's iPhone 10. It offers a new processor for faster performance. Interestingly enough, it has storage space up to 520 gigabytes, which is a ridiculous amount. It's halfway to a terabyte, right? Isn't that what or is it? I think it's halfway. That's an insane amount of space. I have found that space is more important on iPads than it is on iPhones. Because we upgrade iPhones so much, I don't think the space gets to be such a problem or gets to be so overwhelming. And then even if you have space, the one thing I noticed when I tried to upgrade Melanie's phone from the older phone to the newer phone, a lot of computers don't have the space to back up when you try to back up the old phone to a computer in order to start the new phone with that backup. A lot of computers don't have the space that these phones have. So you sit there like, what's the point? But I think for like an iPad, especially if like a newer iPad Pro, probably more space is better because you can download movies. You can download so many places you can download now, from Netflix to Amazon. I've heard Hulu's going to be coming out with downloading. So like when I went to Austin this weekend, I downloaded the entire first season of Ozark so that I could watch it on the plane, because I was on an airline that had no entertainment, had no Wi-Fi, none of that stuff. So I saw that as a real opportunity. So that to me is where you almost download stuff. But I know a lot of people have have photos and videos and all that stuff. So it is what it is. But 512 feels like a lot. I got the lower amount, which was somewhere, what was it, 250, 268? I can't remember the number. I got that with my last iPhone 10 because there were no other available at 64. So I literally was just being very impatient and I wanted to pre-order it, and I was up in the middle of the night. And so I did it because I didn't want to go back to bed without having pre-ordered and purchased this thing. So I had to get the bigger phone size. I don't think I use anywhere near a lot. We stream so much. We download what we need, which doesn't end up meaning downloading every single thing you have. And then you almost get into a situation where you're downloading just to download when you have that much space. So it's pretty good, but it goes up to 512. It's got an improved display for better color representation, and it also has a gold color. They've added gold into the mix with this one. And then, the battery got better. So it says it's got 30 extra minutes. I don't know how you would tell that. I don't know how you would truly benchmark that, but they have done that. So the iPhone XS Max is the largest ever, they're saying smartphone, but I think it's the largest ever iPhone. I'm sure that Samsung or Huawei or one of these companies has come out with something even more ridiculous. I once took an Acer tablet and joked putting it up to my ear. It was like a 7 or 8 inch tablet, and it looked ridiculous, but it didn't look as ridiculous as you thought. I took a picture and Instagrammed it just to kind of make a joke. But the XS Max has a 6.5 inch OLED screen. It runs on the biggest battery Apple has ever put in a phone, and it will last an hour and a half longer. You do find this with the Plus models, the Max models. You will find that the battery lasts more because you have more space to put battery. So it's exciting. Someone being a 10, I think I'm going to jump to that one. If I were anybody who was on one of the other phones, like an 8 or an 8 Plus or whatever, I would just jump to the non-Max model. I would jump to the model, the 10S regular, or 10 is out of the picture, I think, now. That's what Apple does. They literally immediately make obsolete older models, but they have so many phones on the market now. It's absolutely absurd. But both of the phones, the 10S and 10S Max, will have dual SIM capabilities, which is interesting. So you can have like a SIM card for work and a SIM card for personal, which means your phone can be two different things at once. Sometimes people will carry two phones for work and personal, but it seems to be something called eSIM. So it's based on your carrier if it will even work in the US, I think. So it's not a SIM that's a physical SIM, but it's what's known as eSIM, which requires support from your carrier. So you got to check on that. So again, the third model, the iPhone XR, it's really a matter of coming in a colorful array, and it's aluminum finish. And again, a 6.1 inch edge-to-edge LCD display. But it's not to be blanched at, because that phone, it's a new phone, and it's $750. It's $749 starting at, based on the storage. Whereas the iPhone XS is $999. Sneak that up under 1,000, so it's not 3 digits, right? Or 4 digits. And then the iPhone XS Max starts at $1099. So there might be an opening where the iPhone XR makes sense for you. I mean, knowing me, because of the way you can amortize it again over your cell phone bill, I'm probably just going to go all in for the XS Max. I do feel wasteful, though. I feel like an addict. Like when I get a new phone a year out, the year comes so fast. I feel like I just got this phone, but I don't want to be punked. Like I don't want to hold the phone for another year just to hold it. I'm paying the same amount whether I keep this phone or upgrade to the new one. Now, granted, you do have to pay the tax in the moment. And you do have to pay an upgrade fee often, which is like $30. And the tax on a $1,200 or $1,100 phone, that's not insignificant. It ends up being like north of $100, right? So it's weird how much tax ends up being. Who knows if the tariffs play into this? I think they don't. I think I read that they don't. But I would probably upgrade to that one just to have that experience. And there's a lot of reasons why I might do it. When I worry about having the XS Max and, for instance, going for a run or working out, it becomes extremely unwieldy and awkward to carry that size phone. Now, the form factor is just like the Plus, so it's not out of control, but there's no reason to do that. It just doesn't feel right. But I'll tell you what, especially if you're a tablet person, when you're a tablet person, who cares how big your phone is? So now I'm kind of arguing with myself here, confronting my own demons. But when you have tablets, it's not like you're watching tons of video on your phone. I don't love watching video on my phone too, because the minute people call you, it stops your video. I never like that aspect. That annoys me. It annoys me that you can be doing things on your phone, whether it's producing something, using it for video, all that, and you would have to put do not disturb on, because the minute someone calls, it stops your video. And you're like, damn, a tablet doesn't have that as much, especially if you turn off the FaceTime aspects. It's just a pure consumption device. But I think I would jump up to the Max just to kind of experience that. The XR comes in white, black, red, blue, and yellow. It's just as fast as the XS. It has a single lens camera, unlike the XS or the XS, which has dual lens. And again, it uses LCD, which is a less expensive screen technology than the OLED. But when you have screens this size, I don't think you notice a huge difference with that. Again, the XS is made with aluminum, unlike the stainless steel that the premium phones. The casing is made aluminum. That's on the XR or the XR. Sorry, the XR. I always mess that up. Unlike the stainless steel that the premium phones are composed of. Now, the interesting thing, you say, why is Apple going into bigger screens? New York Times did a nice piece on this, and it really appears that when people are presented with the choice between a small or a bigger phone, most people go for the bigger. It's just what you do. It's similar to how everyone wants to buy a big screen TV. You just want to get a bigger and bigger screen, even though you get acclimated to it pretty quickly, and it doesn't feel as big as it once did immediately when you get it. Same thing with SUVs. We get them to have control. We get them to have mastery of our own universe, and we feel safety. But it's safety almost in storms, because what are we looking? It's a zero-sum game between us kind of surviving and the person we hit not. Like, you have this huge screen, you have this huge vehicle. It's kind of, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, how often does that come into play when you have it? 98% of the year, you're in good shape. And I have a Prius, which is maybe similar to the XR version, or maybe it's similar to an even smaller iPhone, cheaper iPhone. But I get great mileage, and I'm good for 98% of the year. And if I really kind of maneuver myself so that I'm not putting my car in harm's way, if I look out on the weather forecasts, I can be in good shape, and I'm getting much better mileage. I'm saving a lot of money. I did the math, and I think I saved $2,000 a year over having an SUV. But we want bigger. We want safety. We want mastery. We want control. And so people go for that. But interestingly enough, a lot of reasons that the big phone thing is something that is an important thing, especially for Apple, is that research, and I think I read this again in the New York Times, research shows people with larger smartphones use them more, particularly to watch movies and play games. And so why is that good for Apple? Because anybody who purchases services through Apple's App Store, if you purchase Netflix, HBO through it, Apple gets 30% of a cut off of all those purchases for the first year, and then they get 15% for subsequent years. So now that's adding to their services revenue, and that's really good. People feel when they have that maybe video is more of an option that they can watch. So it makes a lot of sense. It opens up the world for Apple to make recurring revenue on their App Store. So it's interesting. And as this article said, the bet seems to be working. Apple services revenue rose 31% to $9.55 billion in the last quarter. They're making almost $10 billion on the services part, which isn't even the hardware, which they're making a killing on as well. Funny enough, they're not going to ship the headphone dongles anymore for free. So they're saying, hey, we got that out to you. You got used to the new Lightning jack being your headphone. You got your dongles. We're not sending those out anymore. So Apple is nickel and diming after a point where they're making $10 billion on services and they're making this much on the phones themselves. Difficulty with a bigger phone, and I remember this from the Plus, and it's something I have not experienced with the 10. I can hold it in one hand. When you have a plus size phone, and now when you have the XS Max, which is a plus size form factor, but it's more of the screen is actually in play, you can't reach anything. People have a difficult time using one hand. Again, the iPhone 10 was almost perfect. I always thought, as I said, wouldn't it be crazy if you put this plus factor on a phone? And that's what they're doing here. And they're going to get me to buy it, and I'll be fine. I mean, you overthink things before you buy them. You imagine a person that's not yourself almost. Because once you get the new thing, you acclimate to it within a week, right? And initially you're so blown away by the screen that it all works out. So it ends up being fine. And I think particularly with the watch, for instance, because now the watch, and this was a part of iOS 12, which got released earlier this week, the operating system now allows audio to be stored locally on the watch. That's a big deal. So Apple got a podcast app now finally on the watch. I kept waiting for this. I kept waiting for it, and I didn't understand why Apple let this market advantage lay by the wayside. It didn't make sense why they didn't have a podcast app, their own podcast app, that dinky purple looking thing, which you can get on your phone, and it's decent. It's okay. It's got a good discovery system. Why they didn't have it on the watch, and they had a first mover advantage, I never understood it. But whatever reason, this new iOS brings the ability to sync things to the watch. iTunes, Apple Music that is, allowed you to sync things to the watch. They've allowed you to do that the whole time. But podcast, spoken word has never been allowed to do that. I also noticed Audible has that function now, so you can send audiobooks to it. Why is that good? Because if you have an enormous phone, you don't want to go running with that beast. You don't even want to go walking with it. It's so big in your pocket. It's just out of control. If you can send those things to a watch, now all of a sudden you have the Apple AirPods in your ear. You tell the watch to send the audio to those AirPods. You're wireless. Obviously, the watch has no headphone jack. So you're home free. You can now go running with your watch and listening to things through it. And when the watch has GPS, when it has all that, you're in good shape. You don't even have to carry a phone. It's a little bit liberating. Now, I've always joked, I don't go running outside but 10 times a year, and all of a sudden I'm focusing on how I can run outside when I never run outside. I should run outside more, but it's interesting to be able to send it to the watch. So that opens up the opportunity for me to buy the bigger phone, because now I can do that, because now I can send things to the watch. I can treat the watch like an iPod mini, where you can download things to it and have it saved, and then you use your AirPods and you can listen to it. So that opens up the world for you to not have to bring your phone with you. When you have to bring your phone with you, having a smaller form factor is a very important thing. So I think I'm going to do that because the watch has gotten the ability to be more self-sufficient. So that's a really nice aspect. Now we jump to the watch. So Apple has come out with a new watch called the Series 4. It's crazy. They're on the 4th series now. The Apple Watch has been kind of a hit. Not as big of a hit, I think, as the AirPods. I saw so many people when I was traveling this weekend. I see so many people around New York, around Newark. I see a lot of people wearing these AirPods. This has become the secret super hit for Apple. But the watch is a really good hit too. It's more expensive, but a lot of people have the watch. So the Series 4, it's going to ship with a better fitness tracker and new health features. The screen is 30% larger than the last watch generation, the 3. I'm on the 2. My wife's on the 3. Just where birthdays fell in the line. That's how that worked. Core apps have been updated and redesigned, which you have to do when you change the screen factor. That's one of the downsides if you get, by the way, the XS Max immediately, is it's now a screen size that app makers don't have in their arsenal. So they're going to have to create versions of their apps that work on that 6.5-inch screen. They don't have something that works on that. It's in between what they did before for the iPhone and then what they do for iPad. So there will be a period of time for those who get the phone first where apps are going to look a little funny, a little pixelated, a little wrong. And that's actually a period of time where you want to use core Apple apps, such as using Safari for your internet, using your mail, using anything Apple, because they've been working with that screen size for a year now, and they've built their app to launch with the system and be perfectly calibrated and perfectly optimized. So if you use Chrome, you might see Chrome look a little funky on the XS Max for a while until they catch up. That was actually, I think it was when the Plus came out, I jumped back to Safari because I couldn't stand the pixelated kind of puffed out version of Chrome. And I went to Safari and I never left because I didn't find the difference to be that stark. But the Apple Watch, so it's redesigned. Users can customize a new brand watch face. There's going to be more. There's going to be more options with that. It looks like a really cool screen size. Just the 30% difference. It's more rounded. So less square like this one is. I think I'm going to jump up because I'm on the 2. Why not jump up to the 4? Christmas time's going to be here before you know it. That's when I ask for gifts. This is something that could be good. The new watch comes with advanced heart monitors for taking an electrocardiogram or ECG. The Series 4, according to Apple, is the first over-the-counter device that can take an EKG, which is kind of interesting. The Series 4's software can also alert users if they might have a heart condition like atrial fibrillation. That's really neat. So all of a sudden, your watch is looking out for you like a doctor. The new watch has a faster processor and better health and motion sensors. That makes a big deal because the watch is always off until you turn your wrist to yourself and then it comes on. That split second, I talked to one friend who one time turned his Apple Watch back in because he couldn't stand the microsecond before the watch face turned on and you could see the time. They've gotten better and better. This one looks like it's extremely better. So that's a big deal. The watch can detect when a wearer has fallen down, a leading cause of injuries. So if you have fallen, the watch is designed to prompt you to alert emergency services. If it detects no motion by the wearer after a minute, it calls automatically. The watch can also perform an electrocardiogram, alerting you to worrisome heart rhythms. We talked about that. My only worry, and maybe I'm thinking too far and maybe the watch isn't even this advanced, what if you're really drunk, you get home, you're walking, and you just pass out on your bed, and you're wearing the watch, and you don't move for a minute? Is it going to call the police? I hope not, because that would be a little bit of a messy thing. The new watch Series 4 starts at $399. It's $499 for a watch with cellular connectivity. I'm not that into the cellular connectivity. I don't need it. I think for me, the non-cellular one is fine. I don't need to stream. Now that you can download things on the watch, I'm in good shape. I don't need to be always connected. I don't need to take calls from the road with it. But for those who want it, that's what the price is. It's going to be available. It's already available for order. And the Watch Series 3 now is dropped to $279. That's not a bad price for that. The Apple 3 is really good, but now it's a stark difference because it's more square versus more rounded. I'm going to jump ahead, I think. I'll do it. If you wait for the holidays too, often some seller will drop their price. Whether you're talking B&H, whether you're talking Best Buy, Staples, Target, somebody's going to have a deal, if not all of them, where it's like, oh, it's $70 off this weekend or that way. You'll always get a deal. Just wait. There's so many people trying to sell these devices, and they're not selling as well as Apple thinks they will. So at some point, the price comes down because people got to move product. People got to move an excess of inventory. So that is something I will jump to. My guess is I'm going to jump to the watch, and I'm going to jump probably to the iPhone XS Max. Some will be gifts, some will be whatever, but that's my guess because I know who I am at this point. I'm a 36-year-old man who is impatient about technology and always wants to have the new thing. And we live with these things more than we live with our families. So why not upgrade? Who cares? The technology is worrisome. I mean, the recycling of the technology is worrisome. Where it ends up in some China village, I don't know. But it is what it is. I don't know. The other big update with this, again, is the iOS 12. So iOS 12 was released to all devices earlier this week. It's good. So as I said, it improves older devices. So my older iPad, my iPad Pro, my 10X, my 10 isn't that old, but it improves especially the iPhone or the iPad Mini. It has improved it. That's a nice thing. The other big deal, as I said, is getting native podcast support on the watch. That's a huge deal. I've been waiting for it forever. As I said as well, Audible, or maybe I didn't say it, but I was thinking it. Audible has some kind of complement on the watch where you can download what you were listening to on an audiobook and it can go to your watch. That's awesome. To be untethered from your phone is awesome. Again, it's 10 out of 365 days a year, but I care about it. It keeps me up at night, whether I can do this or not. The only problem I noticed with these syncing of the podcasts from the phone to the watch, it takes a long time. And it's not the podcast maker's fault. I haven't tried it with Apple's podcast, but the watch has so many processes it has to keep in mind for efficiency to keep the battery life where it is, that it's not a clean download process through Bluetooth from the phone to the watch. So it'll be like, it'll jump 20% download and it'll sit at like 20% for a minute. And then it jumps up to 28%. Like it moves. It's very herky-jerky, and that'll get better over time. I think they're afraid to give the processing power to Bluetooth downloads away from the core functionality of the watch because you don't want that watch battery to run out. There's nothing more absurd than when you're wearing this watch and it didn't charge overnight and you didn't realize it, and then it's 3 p.m. and you get that alert where it's like, all right, going into power mode because you have less than 10%, and then power mode lasts for nothing. Power mode stinks, by the way. It looks terrible. It's just like a black screen with analog numbers. It's not pretty. And then that shuts off before you know it, and you're walking around with a completely useless technology device on your wrist that doesn't give you anything. So they do need to keep that efficiency in place. But I think that's a key for why that doesn't work. But it is a little annoying, a little early times for that. It'll get better, but it is nice to have those downloads on the watch. Screen time is a big deal with the new iOS. So it gives you a snapshot of how long you have been on your device and what you are doing on your device. How you're. It's funny I use the word vice, but how you're spending your time. Is it social? Is it news? Is it health and fitness? Is it games? You can schedule downtime. So you could say, only let me be on social networks for an hour, and then it doesn't let you go on again. It's a nice thing to kind of pull back from this technology addiction, which we've all gone towards. Now, doing it early on, I realized I'm not as bad as I thought I was. I'm on my device a lot, but I'm actually reading a lot. So that made me feel good. Notifications is big. Notifications used to hit your phone, used to hit your watch, your iPads, all your devices in just a chronological order of when they're released, no matter who the outlet is when you allowed them. So the New York Times could have the 1st, 4th, 7th, 11th slot, and then CNN can be the 2nd, whatever, down the list, and they were just disjointed. Notifications are now grouped, so you'll see all the New York Times notifications once a new New York Times one comes through. This is great. This just creates efficiency. This creates organization. It makes a lot of sense. And so they're all grouped together. It's a really nice thing. iOS 12 allows you to participate in a FaceTime with up to 32 people. That is great for podcasts. I notice so many people have iDevices. Even if they don't have a phone, they have an iPad. You can sync up with a lot of people. Now, I don't know how stable it is as you get to more and more people. Maybe it is, but that could be really good for podcasts, selfishly. But that's kind of neat if you can get on with a lot of people. Very Brady Bunch FaceTime type of deal. The Measure app is cool. So it's this augmented reality app where you can kind of you use the camera and then you look at something and then you put a point on the camera and then you put another point and it'll tell you what the distance is between the two things. That's really cool. It also has a leveler. Siri shortcuts is another thing. I haven't really gotten into what this does or how it's helpful to me. It's one of those things I bet that I never find is helpful to me, but it's almost like developers, third-party developers have to bring it out and show why it is. So reading this right off of the site, I think it was USA Today, they have the assistant learn your routines, the assistant being Siri, and use that knowledge to design custom shortcuts. Such shortcuts might be used to surface the number of steps you take through the Health app or check the status of your stock portfolio. Apple is opening up the Siri shortcuts feature to third-party developers too, and the company will also let you create your own streamlined actions through a shortcuts app that was not yet available during the iOS 12 public beta period. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's tying together a lot of things. Until someone shows you the way, until they shepherd you as to why this is useful or how it's useful, it's going to be a little difficult to ascertain what you're going to get out of that. CarPlay, which I'm not into. For me, my CarPlay is my phone through Bluetooth on my car, and that's fine. But there are cars that have an actual almost Apple display, like a tablet display in their car with an iOS backing. Big deal is that third-party apps are now allowed in that. So you can have Google Maps, you can have Waze, you can probably have other services. I don't have it, so I don't know who's missing, but it's a nice little thing. And then they got Memojis, where you can create personal avatars that look like you. Never quite got into that. Interestingly enough, some things Apple didn't announce. Quartz, QZ.com had a pretty good article on this. AirPower has kind of gone by the wayside. That was a big announcement. It was basically a block that had wireless charging for all of your Apple devices. So your AirPods, your phone, your watch, and you could all put it on this one pad and it would work. They haven't talked about that again. I'm not sure what happened with that. It's kind of weird. AirPods, an update to AirPods has not been announced. I love my AirPods. I have 2 sets because I got one for Melanie for some anniversary or something, and they don't fit in her ear. So I have 2. I actually thought I lost one of them this weekend when I went away to Austin, and they were deep in the recesses of my undercarriage of my seat in my car. Finally found them today. Felt excited about that. I don't know where AirPods is going to get much better, but they're a great product. I guess if there can be some kind of health benefit, if they can use biosignals, something, I don't know. I guess there could be more noise canceling. They can probably update. Who knows? iPad Pro, I heard there might be an announcement on that actually today, now that I've waited long enough. But the big thing with iPad Pro is probably that it's going to have the form factor of the new iPhones, which means there's no bevel. So the screen, just like I'm talking about the screen on the XS Max, is going to now use the full size of that front of a plus size. And iPad Pro, if it has full screen, that could be pretty killer. MacBook Mini, I don't know, new MacBook Air. I have a late 2016 MacBook Air. I haven't loved MacBooks, I'm going to be honest. I kind of liked my Windows or Dell laptops. I felt like they were a little more they were a little easier to maneuver through. Maybe I'm just too used to the Windows system for laptops and computers. I like it, but it's not like it gets me locked into doing work. I always feel like I have to, it's like I'm doing everything with my opposite hand. No update to the Apple TV or Apple TV services. Not sure where updates can come there. And there was no one more thing, as Steve Jobs always used to say. The one more thing, I think, ended up being the 10R. And I don't know how much of a big announcement that is. I thought I'd end with the fact Amazon itself, today being September 20th, had a big event for their Echo products. So Echo is getting a lot of competition from Apple, but notably from Google, who is really good at what they do. And they're just killing it with products. They do a real good job. We use a lot of Google products as consumers, so to tie into their system makes a lot more sense than tying into Amazon's kind of created systems to work with their platform. Now, Amazon was the first mover with this, so a lot of people went to it, and so people have started to use theirs. But if Google's going to get products that match up with Amazon, then people might go to Google. So Amazon's trying, they're innovating, they're doing what you need to do. So they announced a new Echo Dot. It's a little more sleek, a little more modern looking than the boxy one that I have. It's apparently 70% louder than the previous model, and the Dot is a smaller device. So the one I have is not very well, the audio on it is not very good. It's supposed to be plugged into another device almost. This one almost looks a little... oh no, that might not be the picture. Echo Auto is interesting. So it's a little device that can plug into your car system, and now you have Echo in your car, which could be kind of neat. It doesn't come out till the end of the year, and it's invite only right now. I did apply for an invite, so we'll see. It's going to be about $50. The Echo input is meant to be plugged into speakers you already own. I thought this is what the Dot was, but who am I to say? That's $35. The second generation Echo Plus with local voice control. It's looking a lot like the Apple HomePod, to be honest, when I look at the picture. The Echo devices are great. I have several of the first generation models. Probably shouldn't have jumped out and got so many of those because they look like they're getting better with sound and fury. The Echo Sub is a subwoofer that hooks into one or two Echoes and can create like a 2x1 stereo system or something. That could be interesting, but it's $130. That seems a lot to only add some bass. But I guess if you're into the music, I could almost imagine putting it in the middle of a fireplace mantle and then putting two Echoes on either side. That could be kind of cool. There's a new Echo Show, which is the video version of the Echo. I heard that Hulu's coming to it as well. I never got the Echo Show, the first one. I'm not sure that I need it, but it's $230 too, which is kind of pricey. I did get a Fire TV, an actual big screen TV, like 60 inches, that has the Fire TV embed in there, so that was pretty good. The Alexa Guard is like a home security system that hooks into Alexa. There's a microwave. They're putting out a microwave that takes advantage of the new Alexa Connect kit. And the microwave includes dozens of quick cook voice presets so you can cook just by asking Alexa. That's $60. I don't really know. I don't know how that one works. That's kind of weird to get an Amazon. I don't know. The connected device world is crazy. I like this one, the Echo Wall Clock. So it's a normal old school clock like we have in your house, but it connects to your Echo speakers over Bluetooth, and it can set timers, alarms, all that, and it'll never go off, right? Because, I mean, I guess it's battery, or is it plugged in? I'm not sure. It must be battery, so maybe it's not as good as I think. But if it's plugged in, like the clock my wife and I have in our room, it's like 10 minutes behind now. And so you don't even use it anymore. It's just slowly losing time. But if this thing is hooked to an actual Alexa, then all of a sudden you're always on time. When daylight savings times come, it automatically moves back. And I just like it. I like having a normal clock in my house. So I might get a few of those. They're only $30. There's some Amazon goes after Sonos with improved multi-room audio, an Echo Link amp. It almost looks like an old school little dial. Let's see. The Echo Link is designed to connect to a receiver or amplifier with multiple digital and analog inputs. I don't know. Is this getting too complex for the typical user? They're trying. The Fire TV Recast, this is interesting, brings over-the-air channels to Fire TV. So you can plug it in, and it will bring you like ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC, and then it also has a DVR. So this thing includes 500 gigabytes of DVR space. That's a lot for $230, and a 4-tuner version with 1 terabyte of storage is also coming. See, for me, where I live, I don't know if I would get these services. So I hope they have some kind of tester where you can put in your zip code or your address, and it'll tell you what you'll get, because that's a really good deal if you can get all those channels, successfully and confidently. Scheduled to ship before the holidays. They got smart plugs you can buy for $25. I guess that hooks into Alexa. A Ring stick-up cam will be offered in both wired and battery-powered configurations, both for $180. The stick-up cam can be used both indoors and outdoors, according to Amazon. Those are the big announcements with the Amazon one. But again, when I think of video, I'm stuck between using Nest and using Echo. So I got a lot of, I got some Nest stuff in my house and it's really working out. And so I'm stuck between it because I really like the Alexa smart speaker, the Echo smart speaker, but going up against Google's just a better service suite. And I like their cameras. I like their apps. And, so you kind of mix and match and do a little bit of both. I mean, I got the Nest thermostat. So I don't know. It's hard to decide, but they're trying to come out with products. They're trying to hit it. And I do like that Alexa, that stupid Echo wall clock. I like it. I might get like 2 or 3 in my house at $30 a piece. That's pretty good. And if they never go out of time, again, I don't know how they work. Are they plugged in? If they're plugged in, that is the game changer. Although then it's sticking out of your wall. I don't know. So a lot of tech going. Love September for the new tech announcements, the imagination of what's coming, the hope for greater technology before us. And let's call it there, my friends. Thank you so much. The Jets are up 14-0 at this point. So we'll talk to you soon, folks. Matt McQueenie, Mix Minus Podcast, over and out.